It's like I've been numbing all of these years. The pain. I didn't know. I didn't know that I was trying to do this on my own. Like, I knew that I was trying to fix it, but I wouldn't ever say that I was the one who was going to fix it. It's like, wow, that's weird. Success, comfort, control. What is the squiggly line of life that you or your family member, these individuals on your oikos list, on that home list, are following? As we continue on to the next slide, we see this down here with the gospel. So as we're living in this terrible, awful way, trying to figure out purpose for ourselves, trying to figure out peace and contentment for ourselves, trying to stop the pain, the Bible has a word, it's called the good news. It's called the gospel, and it means the good news. And the gospel is the simple story of this: how in the beginning of time, God had a plan to demonstrate that He is a merciful and loving being. He is merciful and He is loving. And He created humanity. He created them without sin because they hadn't messed up yet. They hadn't missed the mark in the Garden of Eden, and said, don't think about an elephant. Don't, right? Now you're all thinking about an elephant. Don't eat from this tree. And we look and we go, Carrie, if Eve hadn't, and this is what, young guys usually, it's always the woman's fault if she had, and then, the ladies are like, well, if you had stood up for God like you were supposed to, like, well, I didn't want to, right? And the argument continues and continues on. But here's the thing. In the Garden of Eden, God said, you can eat and you can have anything here. Here's the job I'm laying out. He gives the job description, Genesis 1-3, and then says, don't eat from this. And what's so interesting is we freak out and say, what if they hadn't eaten from that tree? Ready for this? That was part of God's plan. What? God's plan involves sin? Well, yeah. You're a sinner, aren't you? And are you part of God's plan? I mean, Serena, you're part of God's plan, and you have sinned, right? Wait a minute. Here's the thing. Ready for this? In their own strength, they tried to stop from eating from the tree. In their own strength, what did they come down to? I want this now in my way. Instead of waiting on God, they did in their own strength, just like we do. And so here's the thing. Whether it was Adam and Eve, or whether it was Josh and Serena that was in the garden, or if it was Trish and Nate, or if it was Aaron and Linda, you can only maintain holiness. I love, as my friend Tom Burns says, you can only be righteous for about maybe 1.5 milliseconds. Because then it becomes about you and your self-will and not relying on God. So here's the thing. God said in the beginning, He created humanity. They sinned. And the point is this: I need to rely on my Father. Well, Jeremy, how does that communicate mercy? How is God knowing that I was going to sin and bring destruction on myself? You knew they were going to be sinners probably, right? I mean, you knew you and Linda were sinners. Well, you were a sinner. You knew you were a sinner and you still had children, right? I know. And you figured they were probably at some point going to do their own thing and not, you said, right? From day one of being married, right? Of them being alive, yeah. And so here's the thing, but you still had them. You still love them. Even when they don't, even when they thumb their nose at you, even when they say the most spiteful things, you still love them? Whew. Guess what? God knows your sin and knew what you were going to do before you even did it. And while you were still sinning, He had a plan in place for you to rescue you from you, to rescue you from hell, to demonstrate that this is what a loving Father is. It's just skating, although that's a great idea, at Brattleboro at 6:15 on November the 15th. Meet me and Madison in this parking lot. So you could say to your father's children, hey, I really want you to be like Jesus. Ooh. No, but seriously speaking, God put a plan in place and he said, here's the thing. A price is going to be demanded though. And he put the plan in place. He also put the toll in place. He also put the price in place.